Hi, it's Adrienne, the Victoria Paper Shaper. Today we're going to make a fabulous Christmas card with the So Many Stars bundle. Here it is. And I just love it for a whole bunch of reasons. I think it's sort of clean and crisp, and it's not using the traditional Christmas colors, so you really could use any colors you want. I actually chose these two colors because somehow I wound up with a couple extra packets of this cardstock. So necessity is the mother of invention, right? Okay, so let me show you our supplies to make this card. So first, the So Many Stars bundle, and this is the stamp set. It's a photopolymer, so you can see through them, which makes it for easy stamping and lining things up. And these are the Framelits. I've been having so much fun with them. They're really funky designs in here, and they're lots of intricate dies. And these are the ones we're using today out of that packet. It won't come up. Here we go. Okay. So these stitched ones, the stitching's on the outside and the inside of the image. So your star will wind up having stitching around the edges, but then the piece of cardstock that you cut the star out of will also have some stitching, so you can save that and use it for another project. And then I just love these little lacy ones. You have to punch those with pieces out, but they're quite lovely. And then I used the Layering Circles framelit to make this gorgeous grape circle. You may have a punch that's that size, but I didn't, so that's what I used. And then the 1.5 inch punch was used for the joy. And this background, I don't know if you can see it or not. It's hard, probably hard in this light, but it is embossed with the lovely woodland textures, textured impressions. Embossing Folder, that's a mouthful, hey? And that's that. One thing to be careful about with this embossing folder is it does have a one way, so directionally. You want to make sure when you put your cardstock in that your trees are going the right direction, up and down, because if they were going the other ways, that would be sad. Unless it was a Halloween card. And then for cardstock, we're using Highland Heather, Gorgeous Grape, two of my favorite colors, and of course Whisper White. Now to start, you're going to take a 4.25 by 11 piece of cardstock that's been scored at the 5.5 inch mark, and you always fold from the valley to the mountain. This one is actually already, I just folded it a minute ago. And when you fold on your score line, use your embossing folder to get a good crisp edge. Now your next layer is Highland Heather, and that's measuring 5 inches by 3 3/4. And then the layer that you're embossing with the woodland textures measures 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. And again, make sure your trees are going the right way. So when you're attaching these two together, you want to make sure that you use Tombow glue, not your snail. The snail isn't going to catch all the little bumpy bits, so you just need to zip around the edges. You don't need a lot. And I usually go in a little bit, because that way if some glue squirts out the edges, it's not going to be the end of the world, where otherwise you're going to get glue everywhere. So there you go. And then for this little piece, I just cut a strip of the Gorgeous Grape, and it's 5.5 by about 1/8 of an inch. And I would use my Tombow again to attach this, just making a little line. Got a little bit too much there, but that's okay. And the reason I'm using my Tombow for this piece is because it's so skinny to get it to fit. If you use your snail, it's going to go over the edges. All right. Okay, and then it just folds over like that, and then you can just, Tombow also gives you that minute or two of forgiveness so you can tweak it, readjust it, and there you go, bam. Now for your stars, this is the fun part. This is a technique that we often use with flower petals. So make sure you have your star the right way up, and you're going to take the back of your pokey tool if you have one, and if you don't have one, look for something that has this kind of shape. It could be a pen or like at the back of a Sharpie or something. Just make sure it's rounded and not too pokey. And then you're just going to do this, and what you'll see happening is it raises the edges of the star, and what it's breaking down when you're rubbing it like that, it's breaking down the fibers a little bit. So that's why it's doing that. And then I repeat that for this star. You be very careful with that one because you don't want to rub too hard because it is a little more delicate. And then the next star. And last but not least, the little gorgeous grape star. Okay, so they all have, you can see, a little more dimension to them now. So I'm going to assemble them and using glue dots. So the gorgeous grape, see, and that's a great way of using glue dots. Sorry, I didn't see that. I sometimes pull out of the frame without thinking. I just stick it right onto the glue dot and then onto that. So get my glue dot, stick it on, pull it off. I could do this all day. Okay, so then you have these two, and to assemble these two, I used a dimensional. So this gives it even more dimension, funnily enough. And so I did stagger the stars. And so this one's going to actually line up with the two Highland Heather stars are going to sort of line up. Here we go. There we go. So we're going to take a piece of the Whisper White and our gorgeous grape ink. I forgot to mention that you needed that at the beginning, sorry. So we're going to stamp our joy into the gorgeous grape. Like that. And somewhere I have a punch. And then you're going to punch it out. And the nice thing about circular punches is they're usually fairly easy to line up. So I'm going to attach the joy that I just stamped to the gorgeous grape background. For that, I will use the snail because it's two flat surfaces, so that's the perfect place to use our snail. And then I just center it. Here you go. And I'm gonna, okay, I'm gonna put enough on that. Oops. See, I just put on too much glue. Yeah, you don't want to, I was trying to get some underneath there without really paying attention to what was coming out. You don't want to have too much glue because it's just hard to deal with if it comes off in the wrong places. Okay, so get that on there. And then to attach the star, I'm using another dimensional. And I mean, you could put the star straight up and down if you want, but I just sort of like it at a bit of an angle. For me, that's just makes it more fun. And then for the dimensionals, and if you were using real ribbon here, you want to make sure you're not putting your dimensionals on the ribbon, because that's not going to hold it in place. So you would put it at the top and the bottom of your greeting where it wouldn't be touching the ribbon. In this case, it's cardstock, so it doesn't really matter, but it's just something to keep in mind for future use. And I had it in a little, and then I had it just going down to the bottom, but you could stick it over there. There's so many options. There you go. And then, last but not least, the dazzling diamond. And I cut them up and put them in here because it's just easier for when I'm having classes. Then your rhinestone, not dazzling diamond, sorry. Your rhinestone, basic jewels rhinestone, anything but basic, goes into the center. And there you go, just like that. You have a Christmas card. Ta-da! Thank you so much for coming by. You can visit my shop at victoriapapershaper.stampingup.net. And please like my video and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.